When it comes to flying to Koh Samui, one of the most beautiful destinations in the world and the star of the White Lotus Season 3, you don't exactly have options. Bangkok Air has the routes all to themselves. So if you stuck with them, is it worth paying up for business class, or should you just save your baht for the beach?
So Koh Samui might be full of drama this season, but hopefully there's none on board. Swadika from a not so grey and sunny Bangkok. In today's video we're traveling Bangkok Air. It was meant to be business class in both directions. Unfortunately got downgraded on the way out because the plane swapped. It's not a bad thing though because we can compare business class to economy.
With my suitcase packed and my deposit returned, I'm getting into the complimentary shuttle bus at one of my favourite airport hotels, the Park 9 Bangkok Suvarnabhumi Airport, which is only 10 minutes away. This is going to be a first for me because I haven't been on a domestic airline in Bangkok from Suvarnabhumi Airport before.
So I'm just going to go find the check-in. This could be interesting because with the downgrade I was told I would still receive the blue ribbon. That's like their business class sort of benefits, so like check-in, bag allowance, etc. Whether or not that translates, I'm not sure. Hopefully, let's find out.
After eventually finding the check-in desk, because just when you found your flight on the indicator board, the language changes to Thai. Bangkok Air's check-in desks are really well organised, with a separate queue for Premier Plus and Blue Ribbon class. And all my benefits are being instated, which is great, so it's off to departures to go check out the lounge.
So I'm really pleased to say that yes, all the benefits have been granted, so it's off to the lounge.
Even if you're travelling in economy class, you still get more benefits than most airlines. But if you upgrade to business class or blue ribbon, here's what you can expect. With the best ones being priority check-in, priority boarding, lounge access, a larger seat, and a better meal. I'm worked up on my free time, supposed to be at home, right? Somewhat asleep, I walked into the first Bangkok Air lounge I could find, only to be told I could use the business class one. A little confused, I suddenly realised as a boutique airline, even economy passengers have their very own lounge, although it's a slightly different setup in Koh Samui, but we'll get to that later in the video.
So this is actually quite amazing because they give a lounge to both economy and business class, and because the flight was downgraded there's not many people in here because I'm guessing most people moved to a different flight, and the reason why they can do that is because Bangkok Air basically has a monopoly on the route. You see they own Koh Samui Airport, so the only other operator that actually goes from there is Scoot.
Which had me thinking, because Scoot, as we found out when we flew the Boeing 787 in premium economy, is a low-cost carrier, but with no other option but to pay the fees to Koh Samui Airport, which must be fairly high, appears to be a fixed price, which is odd for a low-cost carrier. For a short-haul operator, the lounge is pretty good. I was quite impressed by the snacks, and there's even a counter where you can order various things. I didn't actually have breakfast this morning, so quite fancied not popcorn, but a cup of tea. And I was delighted to see they had a small selection of dim sum and a custard bun, which was sadly not the really gooey lava-filled version that's just amazing. You only live once, so I had seen on TV this grass-based drink, which is apparently really good for you and all the rage. As you can see from my face, it's one of the worst things I've put in my mouth. The lounge did get a little bit busier over the next hour by about 5 passengers, but I'd really like to see it early in the morning when the business class flights take off. And with far too much time on my hands, I'm off for a little explore. And with Bangkok Air being a boutique airline, how could they not have a Japanese Toto in the bathroom? Which should be doing all kinds of wonderful things to my bottom, but it didn't appear to be plugged in.
So I really wasn't expecting that, for there to be 2 lounges, one for economy and one for business, but the business one being a little bit nicer. I'm off to the flight now, going to be a bus apparently, which I was not expecting, but I'm quite excited for today's flight.
I'm not exactly sure whether this is down to a constraint on how many jet bridges are available, or whether it's down to cost saving, noting that Bangkok Air appears to have its own fleet of buses. This does sort of defeat the point of boarding groups, because while Group 1 can easily get loaded on with Group 2, etc., sort of defeating the point of boarding early, which is one of the benefits of flying in blue ribbon class. I'm first on the bus, and I've asked the lady really nicely which side to stand on to get the best view of the plane, which took a lot of brain power, and I'm not really surprised, as I often get this very wrong myself. En route to the remote stand, I get my first glimpse of what is a very pretty livery for a boutique airline. And just before we board, we'll have a quick look at the journey map. Papa Golf 133 departs Bangkok at 11:40, taking just over an hour and covering a tiny distance of 297 miles, arriving into Koh Samui at 12:45, which was a bit of a mistake because it was way too early for check-in. I would normally at this point show you the seat map, but this is an Airbus A319 that only has economy class in a 3-3 layout, over 25 rows with a maximum capacity of 144 passengers, with extra legroom seats in rows 1 and 11.
So it was really good because of the benefits. Got to go on the first bus, but typically they're board from the back to the front. On this A319 Airbus airplane, it's okay. So after consulting the internet, it's 19.8 inches of width and 31 inches of pitch. But there's a bit more because it's the bulkhead in 1A.
On some airlines, they don't even have a wall in front, which saves weight and therefore fuel and cost. But this is pretty awkward, I imagine, for the cabin crew whose jump seats are just on the other side. The armrests in the middle of the seat are fixed because they contain the tray table, which would otherwise be on the back of the seat, and there's a magazine holder in front, otherwise there isn't much else to tell you about the seat itself. It is comfortable and the blue matches the theme. With another busload of passengers arriving for our plane, I'm looking out the window at Bangkok Air's ATR-72 propeller plane, with these also operating the route to Koh Samui. They're a must for any aviation enthusiasts, although they can be a little turbulent in the wind. The time spent taking off and landing leaves very little time in the sky, so the cabin crew were really fast in preparing meals. What was a joy to see was the metal rewashable cutlery. We're in 2025 and plastic is such a taboo, even though I appreciate why airlines use it. If you don't like fish, then all you could have eaten was the dessert. I really enjoyed the fish in tomato sauce with the very creamy mashed potato. It was packed full of flavour, just the right temperature, and if this is the economy meal, I can't wait to see what they have in business. And the dessert was probably somewhere between caramel and dulce de leche, beautiful yet simple. Now usually I'm going to cut things off here for a very good reason, and I'll see you in part 2.
Staying in the beautiful hotel with this absolutely magnificent plunge pool at the Anatara Loana, Koh Samui. So apologies for not putting the landing or the airport in part 1, but it's just so breathtakingly beautiful and so life-changing, I had to save it for part 2. It is 7 in the morning, I'm just going to enjoy this beautiful pool just that little bit longer, go to breakfast, and then it's off to the airport.
I really hope I'm saying this right, but the Anatara Loana Hotel is within easy distance of temples, foods and cats, taking no more than 10 minutes to reach the airport. And the journey to the airport should cost you between 200 and 300 Thai baht, or over 400 if you've not negotiated hard enough.
Now usually stuff like arriving at the airport an hour and 25 minutes before boarding would usually scare the crap out of me, but this is such a small airport and it's domestic, so let's get checked in.
At Koh Samui Airport, Bangkok Air has 2 business class check-in desks, special assistants and several bag drops. But it wasn't exactly obvious which line to go down, so I ended up in the economy class. Not this was a problem because there were only 2 passengers in front, causing a wait of about a minute. After checking in with a lovely check-in agent, you have to go around the corner to a giant LED display. We need to wait for 4 minutes to see if your bag ends up in the red square. If you do, then it's possible you have something that isn't allowed. Not necessarily drugs, but perhaps the notorious power bank, which is not allowed in checked luggage. After chatting with the locals who were too busy chilling out on the grass, I'm heading towards the shopping district of the airport, which is unlike any other airport I've ever been to before.
This is one of the most surreal experiences I've ever had going to an airport. It's almost like being in like a little shopping village. It's pretty cool, I just have no idea where the lounge is.
After walking for about 100 metres or so, it was pretty obvious behind the chill out spaces, a little bit like taking the family to the park for a picnic. Security takes you over a small but very cute little river. And once beyond here, you are in the departure area, which quite honestly feels like a fairly high-end tropical hotel with various rooms. There's a beautiful straw roof and lots of little shops and restaurants. Eventually, after not a lot of effort, I found one of 2 entrances to the Blue Ribbon Lounge, which quite honestly was a relief because it's one of very few buildings and places in the airport that have air conditioning. Not that it's too bad outside, but at 32 degrees in May, it's enough to make you need a spare change of clothes. The lounge is fairly similar to the one in Bangkok, but it feels a little bit more tropical, probably because of the outdoor type furniture. There's another good selection of food with mostly prepared sandwiches, but be aware of the steam from the dim sum cabinet. Finding a quiet corner, I'm making use of a plug socket, looking through the blinds that passengers are already en route to the parked airplanes. You see, Koh Samui airport doesn't have any jet bridges. This makes for a wonderful experience, a little bit like Jurassic Park, but replace the dinosaurs with 40-ton airplanes.
That would be so easy to just sit in the lounge because of the air conditioning, but there's a garden, there is so much to do here, and I want to see some planes as well.
Spotting someone who looks approachable, it turns out they're visiting from Basingstoke, and both he and his partner are both digital nomads, kindly agreeing to record me on the swing while watching a Scoot Embraer E190, which is no more than 50 metres away, take off. How exciting. After standing outside for as long as I could, the comfort and temperature of the lounge was just too tempting. But on my way I'm passing one of the beautiful departure gate areas, and unlike Bangkok, there is what's called the courtesy counter, which has free drinks and snacks for economy class passengers. We will discuss towards the end whether I think it was worth the extra cost to pay for business class, but in the meantime I headed towards gate number 1 for boarding. What's interesting is that once we finally started boarding, which was 5 minutes late, business class and premium passengers get their own more private buggy over to the plane, with the ride taking no more than 5 minutes. It's a shame about the weather, but what made me smile was that our Airbus A319 back to Bangkok is one of the more vivid and pretty liveries, with the addition of yellow and green with the capital of Cambodia on the front. The journey is exactly the same, but just in reverse to the outbound flight, so to save you from the boredom, let's skip straight ahead to the seat configuration, which is, as you can appreciate, quite different from the all economy layout on the way out. The economy class drops from 144 down to 108, and that's because of the addition of 3 rows of business class recliner seats. And laid out in a 2-2 configuration, the choices are either window or aisle.
So this is Bangkok Air's A319 Airbus airplane with the business recliners, not to be confused with the premium economy. It's got 22 inches of width, which is slightly more than economy, and 47 inches of pitch. And having tried the recline, I think it's about 8 inches, which is pretty generous.
In the left armrest are the seat controls, which are manually operated. And I was pleased to see that unlike American Airlines, there was enough room for my rucksack below the seat. There's also plenty of room for my shoes. In the centre is a nice wide console which also houses a tray table and the ideal place for the welcome drink, with a universal plug socket just below. To get more comfortable you could also extend the leg support, but I found this too small and it made little difference. I discovered that the tray table is not in the central console, but to the left, which makes me wonder who they inherited the plane from. And with 30 minutes and counting until the landing, the meal service is off to a quick start. I'm sorry to say that for those once again who don't like fish, you're out of luck. With a beautiful piece of halibut with again a creamy mashed potato, green beans and a single cherry tomato. Another tasty meal which comes with a dish of various fruits, and I only wanted a glass of water, but alcoholic beverages are also available. What was wonderful but made me wonder if they don't know about other types of dessert was the same caramel cake. No complaints from me though. When it comes to entertainment or Wi-Fi there isn't any, so I enjoyed my own music on my Bluetooth headphones. But I did order a hot Thai milk tea to go with the meal. I wasn't sure exactly if I had enough time to drink it though. While my tea was cooling, there was just enough time to visit the bathroom, but in honesty I didn't bother recording because it's not very exciting, which brings us nearly to the conclusion and how much exactly did I pay for the flight. My return trip in business class cost just over 12,000 Thai baht, but when the plane was downgraded they refunded me the difference one way, which was 1,685 Thai baht. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's sort of debatable whether it's worth it or not, because both classes get a baggage allowance, lounge or snacks in the case of Koh Samui, but I'd like to hear from you guys and see what you think. Let us know in the comments below. I will just mention that when you arrive into Bangkok, the curtain was drawn, and if you're a blue ribbon business class passenger, you get your own bus over to the main terminal. I was in no rush at all and wanted to record a little more footage, but the cabin crew were really nice and they asked me if I wanted to go or not on the first shuttle bus.
So welcome to the conclusion. I think Bangkok Air is actually a really good and solid airline. They do make themselves known as a boutique airline. Yes, the prices are a little bit high, but that's obviously because they have a monopoly on the route. Anyway, let's have a look at today's flight.
When it comes to economy versus business, there's no doubt that the second is more comfortable with a slightly improved meal service, but given the route is only 1 hour, you really have to ask yourself, is it worth it? I certainly did appreciate the air conditioning and the plugs in the lounge at Koh Samui. If you're on a budget, then it's pretty obvious, but if you're not, then the choice is really personal. I'm just pleased, given the nature of Koh Samui, that there wasn't any drama on the plane, except for 2 passengers who came off at Bangkok and clearly had a minor disagreement over someone pushing them on the plane. I'd like to think though it's less to do with personalities and more to do with it being 32 degrees and extremely humid outside.
And I really hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching and see you on the next journey.
And we have some really exciting ones heading your way, including a mysterious first-class product on board Cathay Pacific, and perhaps the world's cutest plane when we fly from the happiest country in the world, the Philippines.